All good structures start out with a strong foundation, and when it comes to tarps and tents, that begins with choosing the right stakes for the soil conditions in which you're about to encounter. Hi, I'm Mike Wynn from Plight to Freedom, and in this video I'm going to cover a few common stakes, how to use them, and a few alternatives for the worst case scenario. Before staking anything out, clear the area of any debris so that you're staking out on solid ground and not through a stack of leaves. We're all familiar with tent stakes, or pegs, also known as J-hooks or shepherd's hooks. They're the stakes that come with most tents. You can find them in a variety of materials, such as titanium, aluminum, or steel, weighing from 1/4 ounce up to 3 ounces, and varying in length from 6.5 to 8.25 inches long. They work well in firm soil, but they don't hold fast in soft or sandy conditions, high winds, and they're prone to bending while being hammered into rocky ground. That's why I prefer MSR Groundhogs. This stake's 3-sided Y-beam design provides extra holding power in a wide variety of soil conditions. They can handle being hammered into rocky soil, and they stay anchored in high winds. They're made out of aluminum, weigh 1/2 ounce, and are 7.5 inches long. But if you prefer something a bit smaller and lighter, then try the Mini-Groundhogs. They're 6 inches long, weigh 10 grams apiece, and are almost as effective as their larger sibling in many soil conditions. The knock at the top of the stake is perfect for securing guy lines, and the reflective nylon pole cord allows easy visibility and removal. When staking out groundhogs, make sure the top of the Y is facing away from the tarp, and use the lower portion of the Y as a guide, pointing your line back to the tarp or tent. This will give the stake more holding power because as the line is pulled in the direction of the tarp, force is put on the opposing side of the stake. If you need something with even more holding power for snow or sandy situations, consider using snow or blizzard stakes. They're made out of aluminum, each weigh about 1 ounce, and are 9.5 inches long. In packed snow or sand, they can be used like normal tent stakes, but if you want to utilize them to their full potential, use them in a dead man. To set up a dead man, feed your line through 2 of the holes along the side of the stake and tie it off with a bowline hitch on the inside curve of that stake. Decide where you want to place the stake and dig a hole deep enough to bury it. In icy situations, leave a stick on the ground under the line to cut down on friction with ice. A few alternatives to using sand or snow pegs in a dead man are using a stick, a bandana, or even a stuff sack. When driving a stake into the ground, you don't have to go along with the old 90-degree angle technique. It is thought that this old method will give you maximum holding power from your stakes to your guy lines, but there have been studies and tests that show the most effective way to position a stake is vertically straight up and down with a possible 10 to 15 degree variance. After 15 degrees, the stake reduces its holding power by up to 30%. The 2 major factors that you need to consider when choosing an effective stake is its length and surface area. The longer the stake is and the more surface area it has, the better it will hold in a variety of circumstances. There are several ways you can attach a stake to your tarp or tent. At the corners of my tarp, I attach loops which can serve several purposes. Regular cordage, bungee, or shot cord will work fine. Simply feed the stake through the loop and stake it out. In high wind situations, double up the loop for extra security. If you like the idea of quickly releasing your tarp from your stake or just want to try something fancy, girth hitch a toggle or small stick into your setup. There is no need to untie anything later, just pull out the stick. Or you can add some bling to your stakes with some hardware. Regardless if you're a tent or a tarp person, you'll need to know how to attach guy lines to a stake. Here are 3 options for tying your guy lines to your stakes. First, let's start out with a round turn and 2 slippery half hitches. Wrap the guy line completely around the stake, taking a turn, and then form a bite in the working end, and tie 2 half hitches onto the line. The second way you can tie off your guy line is by using a Marlin spike hitch. Form a loop in your line, then feed a bite from the standing part of the line into the loop. Slide the stake between the bite and the loop, pull it tight, and stake it out. The third method is tying a clove hitch. Wrap the guy line around the stake and do a turn under the standing line. Then finish it with a half hitch and tighten. The second way I tie this is by forming 2 loops the exact same way with the working part on top of each loop. Then tuck the second loop under the first loop, slide the stakes into the loops, and tighten. All 3 of these knots will hold fast if you need to reposition your stakes to achieve a tighter tarp. Here are a few field experience tips that might just bail you out. Wood stakes are easy to produce. Simply find a few twigs from a freshly broken limb, about the diameter of your thumb, and cut them down to 8 to 10 inches in length. Sharpen one end of the twig to a point, and on the opposite end, cut a knock on the upper part of the stake. This will help by keeping the line locked onto the stake. Pound it into the ground and you're good to go. Depending upon where you set up camp, you may be limited on options as to how you're going to stake out your tarp, but there are always several alternative opportunities for any situation. On occasion, I've tied my guy lines out to roots, logs, and even rocks. When tying off to a rock, I use a killick hitch, also known as an anchor hitch. This one starts out as a timber hitch. Feed the working end under the rock, back up to and around the standing line. Now tuck it under and twist it around and back down the line as many times as you feel necessary. Then tighten it by pulling on the standing line. On the opposite side of the rock, finish it off with a half hitch. This hitch is strong enough to hold a rock as you pick it up and will even hold while being thrown. Don't forget the obvious application of this hitch. It's great for canoeing and kayaking. Why carry a heavy anchor when you could just pick one up off the ground? Well folks, that's all for another video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you have, please like, subscribe, and share. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. If you have any tips on how you like to use stakes, please leave it in the comments below. I always like learning something new. Also, if you're interested in wild plants and their uses, check out my website, plightofreedom.com, where I've identified over 100 wild plants and their historic uses. Well, that's all for this one. In the next video, we're going to cover guy lines, so stay tuned. Hope to see you on the trail.